When it comes to bass fishing, most of what we talk about really is opinions and experiences. It's things that we've experienced out there on the water that lead us to the conclusions that we have. And while that is great and it's a great learning tool, one of my absolute favorite things that I love about just bass fishing is all the different tracking studies that there are out there on bass behavior and bass movement. It's something that I absolutely love to dig into because it's facts. When you go out there and you read a study, they're facts. And the nice thing is that I've been able to put some of these studies out. A lot of you may have seen these before on the Bass Fishing HQ channel, and I absolutely love doing that. But there's so many studies that I have not done like videos on that are just really, really intriguing to me. And one of the things that I've learned about all these different tracking studies that I guess you can say I didn't always think about, especially when I was getting into bass fishing, was that bass all have really different behaviors. This is something that, to me growing up, I always felt like, if I was catching bass in one way, that's the way I needed to go out and catch more bass. But the thing is that bass are all very different. They all have a little bit different behaviors. Some are a little bit more, I guess, laid back. Some are a little bit more, they like to move. They're very aggressive. There's a lot of different behaviors that bass have. And that is exactly why somebody can be fishing one bait and catch a couple of fish, and someone be throwing something completely different behind them and still be catching a lot of fish, or even catching more fish at times, because those fish just weren't interested in that first bait because of their behaviors. And I think that is something that is so intriguing, and something that I have learned that has really helped me in bass fishing is that because bass are so different, on almost every body of water that you go to, you can kind of find the bass that you want to catch. If that makes sense. It's kind of hard. And this kind of comes back to fishing your strength. For example, on almost every single body of water that I've been to, there is some sort of shallow water bite, no matter where you go. And this also makes perfect sense from a study that I did on Toledo Bend. One of the biggest bass in this study had some of the most unique behaviors in this study. As a matter of fact, when a lot of bass were going to and from shallow water and deep water, this fish actually stayed in like extremely shallow water all the way until I believe it was July. It was into June for sure, but it may have been a little bit into July. And this was on Toledo Bend, like I just said, in Texas. And it's hot in Texas in June and July, where a lot of guys are thinking, man, those fish are deep, they're offshore. They're still quality big bass that are up shallow, and that's because of their behavior. That's because they just like to do something different. So when you go to a new body of water, one of the best ways for you to catch fish is simply fish the ways that you enjoy fishing. Because if you enjoy something, you can stay a lot more motivated throughout the day. Like if you like to go fish a frog and it's not in the dead of winter, there's probably an area on the lake where you can catch fish on a frog. Whether that's skipping it underneath of a dock, maybe it's in grass and vegetation, maybe it's on a laydown, you can fish a frog and find some fish. Maybe just fishing shade lines, whatever it may be. So when I get to a body of water, that's a lot of times what I like to do, is I like to do something that I'm very comfortable doing. And if you guys watch the lake break videos that I do on Bass Fishing HQ, that's what I do every single time. I fish the ways that I enjoy fishing from the get-go, because if I can get on fish doing that, I can pick it apart a lot quicker because of how comfortable I am. And because bass all have different behaviors, usually I can find some fish doing something that I like to fish. So this is a little bit more of the mental side of bass fishing, but I think for you as an angler, if you ever are fishing and say you have a 5-hour time frame to go fish and you fish for 2-3 hours, fishing the way that you're supposed to catch them, just try to do what you enjoy. Because a lot of times if you move enough, you will find that little area or that small section, whatever it may be, where you can catch fish the way that you like to catch them. And then as soon as you start catching fish, this is like the snowball effect in bass fishing, is that when you start catching fish, you will then start to like put something together. Maybe you realize, for example, maybe you realize that the fish are on the north side of pockets when the sun is at a certain, like when it's up high in the sky, because there's bigger shade lines on that side of the pocket. So then you can run the north sides of pockets, you know, and so you can apply this whether you like the pond fish, lake fish, river fish, and you can go out there and just have a good time and catch a lot of fish. So stick to your strengths. Realize that all bass have different behaviors. If your buddy's catching them offshore on a deep brush pile, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to do that as well. So guys, I hope you enjoy this video. My latest video, I actually really enjoyed talking about it, talking about different upsizing in lures, upsizing your lures. So I'm gonna leave that linked right up here. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you tomorrow.